Greetings on Monday, March the 14th. I'm Bruce Hooley. The girls' state basketball tournament in our rearview mirror, the boys' state basketball tournament dead ahead of us, and we will talk about that and Ohio State's first round NCAA tournament draw against the lovable Sister Jean. And I am joined by my PressProsMagazine.com founder and publisher, Mr. Lyle Sonny Folks, and we will soon be joined by Tri-Village head coach Josh Sagester. The Patriots have made it to the state, and they will play Antwerp on Friday in the Division IV state semifinals. Hello, Mr. Folks.
Lovely Wi-Fi, and I just love the term bandwidth.
Well,
the least I understand about it.
Fine on my screen, but you, I think, are getting a view of yourself that may not be as bandwidthy as you actually are.
Well, it's a science, and I'm older than science, so I'll just have to live with it.
Yes, you will. Well, just quickly,
we got a good show tonight.
We do have a good show.
We got a good show tonight. I wanted to talk about an interesting guest, and Josh Sagester coming on. We can talk a little bit about the girls' state tournament over the weekend, and I thought it was revealing. I thought there were some things really to take away from that tournament that are topics that need to be addressed, quite frankly, going into the future of the tournaments. And so if we have time tonight, we'll talk about that. I'd love to hear from other people and their perspective or their impressions on the tournament, just about what they saw, not only on the court, but off the court, that made an impression in their minds about, what the culture of the tournaments and the culture of competition is going to be like going forward, not to exclude the officiating that we wrote about and talked about during our coverage of the weekend.
Yeah, and we'll have a story this week on PressProsMagazine.com, an interview with Denny Close, the supervisor of officials in the state of Ohio. And I'll have a column, what I've seen so far about officiating and about basketball and where it's headed and how it was designed to be. Before we get to Josh Sagester, head coach at Tri-Village, give me your one overriding image from the girls' state tournament, Sonny. We were there all 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The boys will be same format, same division, same times, but it'll start on Friday. But do you have one particular overriding image? Doesn't have to be from a championship game. It doesn't have to be a particular, anything. Just I wonder, I have one image in my mind that I saw that I think is the very best of high school sports. Do you have anything in your mind?
I was disappointed by the behavior and what I heard from some of the students cheering sections in terms of taunting of opposing teams, opposing players. It has always been there. It used to be kind of cute. It used to kind of be kind of funny. Like a lot of other things in culture now, it isn't funny anymore. And to make as much a deal out of as we do about sportsmanship, about treating opposing teams and opposing schools with respect, I didn't see as much of that this last weekend as I would have liked to have seen, particularly for the sake of it being girls basketball. And one of the coaches told me, he echoed those same sentiments. He said, it's hard to believe that this is where girls basketball, not boys, but girls basketball has come in such a short amount of time. So I guess, what you see and what you hear at the tournament off the court has come to a point where it almost detracts from what you see on the court. The off the court detracts from what you see on the court, and it makes it very hard to enjoy.
Well, my image is much better than that one. It is the late timeout taken by Waterford in their game with New Knoxville, and their 6'3" freshman Avery Wagner had just given up an offensive rebound to New Knoxville under the basket. In fact, two of them. And I think in the course of that, she got hit in the head and was a little upset with herself that she allowed the offensive rebound and a little maybe physically injured. Jerry Close, the head coach at Waterford, took a timeout. And as she walked to the bench, he walked out to meet her. And he met her halfway between half court and the team huddle. And he took the entire timeout with his hands on her shoulders, talking to her nose to nose, not yelling at her, but encouraging her. And I think telling her, look, you got about 4 minutes left here, and we need you. Look around. Everybody else is a head shorter than you on our team. We really need you to rebound. We need you to toughen up. And if you do that, we're going to win a state championship. And I just thought it was a great bit of coaching. He let his assistant coaches coach his other 4 players in the huddle. But I thought it was a really neat moment of Jerry Close realizing what one of his players really needed in that situation and thinking outside the box. You know, he could get caught up in, wow, I need to be in my huddle. I need to diagram the inbounds play or the out of bounds play or the press break or whatever. But instead, he went right to her, and we'll never know. But I think that was, first of all, an excellent bit of coaching. And second of all, might have made the difference in Waterford hanging on down the stretch.
But the difference in what I brought up and what you said is this: something probably happens like that every game in high school basketball. There's a moment in a time where there's a very poignant and wonderful coaching experience and coaching moment where a coach goes to a player and makes their point in a manner in which it not only gets immediate results, but it gets lifelong results, because people remember that. You remember those moments. I certainly remember when Jim Hardman took me out of a game one time and said, well, take a good look at the circle we're standing on, because it's going to be a while before you stand here again. Now, nobody else heard that except him and me. And I guess somebody probably say, well, that wasn't a very nice thing to say, but he sure made his point to me. And that's that kind of moment that you just talked about. But what I'm talking about is something that is cultural, that you didn't used to hear, that if you had done that, said something like what you heard from the Reynoldsburg crowd directed at the Mason kids, their student cheering section the other night, when you were in high school, when I was in high school, your dad would have skinned you and you would never have gone to another game. That's what bothers me now about these events. And it doesn't seem to bother a whole lot of other people, just those wacky kids. You know, kids will be kids. And I'm not sure that it has to be that way, or it should be that way.
Well, let me say, I had the pleasure of covering the regional final between Botkins and Tri-Village, and those are 2 communities that really support their teams and really both wanted to win badly. And I guess I didn't think about it at the time, because to me it should be the norm, and it is the norm for those 2 communities. But while both of them were heavily invested in their own players, I didn't hear any baiting of kids on the other team. I didn't hear any animus toward the other fans. And that was really I guess in hindsight, something I should have appreciated more at the time. And in that vein, let's bring in the head coach of the Tri-Village Patriots. They are in the state semifinals, and we will be happily covering them on Friday at UD Arena. And Josh, as soon as I get that that overlay off your face, we'll let everybody see that you're joining us here live on the Huddle Show. So great to have you with us tonight. Congratulations on making it to state.
Thanks, Bruce. Good to see you. Hi, Sonny. How are you?
He's stuck with a bad internet, Josh, so he lags answering by about 2 or 3 seconds. That's how he is.
Okay. Excellent.
He's puzzled at looking at his screen, so he may be frozen right now. Sonny, are you with us, or are you frozen in time?
I am not frozen anymore. I was frozen. I was listening to what Josh had to say coming on. So no, I'm back with you now.
Well, great. Well, Josh, first of all, just what has the last few days been like? Huge win by your team on Friday night. You guys had made that a goal, I know, since last season, when your season ended in the regional semifinals. And you certainly want to focus in on playing Antwerp and scouting and all those kinds of things. But I know you, and I know that you want to take at least a little bit of time to enjoy the moment and to enjoy reaching a goal that you guys set.
We did. We certainly enjoyed it, Bruce, the last few days. But as you mentioned, now it's kind of time for us to lock in and get to work. And obviously Antwerp's very, very good. So we certainly have our work cut out for us. But very appreciative to be moving forward and getting this opportunity to play here at University of Dayton in the Final Four.
Well, Sonny's internet just cut out, so I'll ask you a second one. Jagger Landers is their 6'6" guy down in the lane. So he had a really good game against Marion Local. He had a really good game, I think 20-some points. And did I see right? 17 rebounds in the regional final. So you're blessed with big guys, Justin Finkbein and Josh Scantlin, but I would think Jagger Landers would be somebody that you definitely have to be concerned about as you play Antwerp.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very good player. Unfortunately, I've not had a chance to see him in person, but to have seen him a lot in the last 48 hours on film, and he can do a lot of things with the basketball, especially on the offensive end, and he can score in a lot of ways. Especially with his size, he can get things off on the perimeter and posts well, and he facilitates very well. So he's definitely going to pose an issue for us. And going to have to locate him for 32 minutes, and obviously defensively with his length and some of those things. So, um, you know, fortunately, Bruce, we've played a really good non-schedule or non-league schedule, which I know you're aware of.
Right.
So we've tried to put our kids in various situations and see various types of players, and so we have seen size, which is going to be good for us because it won't be the first time that we've seen that kind of size. But yes, he's a very good player. He's got a nice complement of guys around him, and it's pretty evident that their coach does a very nice job with their program as well.
Josh Sagester, the head coach at Tri-Village, is our guest. Tri-Village plays Antwerp, 26-1. Antwerp is in the state semifinals on Friday afternoon at UD Arena. And, Josh, when I looked at their personnel and I saw Jagger Landers, their leading scorer, and obviously a guy you have to keep track of, I thought, well, that's a challenge, but you just dealt with, like Jagger Landers, a district player of the year in Jacob Plyman. So I'm not asking you to give away a game plan, just that you faced a low post threat. I think Jacob is more than that. Jacob can go out on the floor and shoot threes, and I'm not sure if Jagger Landers can do that. But I would think it would have to be a little bit helpful that you just faced a guy you really have to be concerned about in the post.
Yeah, that's exactly correct, Bruce. Very similar. To be honest with you, a lot of similarities mirror each other with regards to both teams, and things kind of start and end with Jagger Landers, much like they did with Jordan Plyman. So again, very similar. And again, both teams had very nice players around him, which make things difficult to guard on the defensive end.
Sonny, are you with us? And if you are, I'm sure you have a question for Josh.
Well, Coach, one of the things that I would like to ask you is, I remember going back to the 2015 championship, and we talked at the time in the locker room after that game, and you said to me, and if you'll remember, there were a couple of times and a couple of things about that particular game that were very trying. One, the fact that you had two remarkable shots to win it, one at the end of the first half and one at the end of the game, plus the fact that you had the double-digit lead that kind of frittered away in the.
There he went. So, Josh, I think he was going down to, your state championship that you won, and you and I have chatted about that. Oh, there you are. You're back again. You want to finish your question? You dropped out.
I was just going to ask you about the perspective, and then you said at the time, I'm going to have to think.
See, Josh, this is why you should not live out in the country like Sonny does, although I live out in the country and I have good internet here. But tell us a little bit about, as a coach, this is everybody's goal to get to a state semifinal, and you've been there before. You've been there in a situation where you did not win the tournament. You've been there in a situation where you did win the tournament. What did you learn as a coach from the first time that you were there that you think will help you this time?
Well, I certainly think experience matters, Bruce, from that perspective. I will tell you, in 14 when we went, obviously we were all very excited and elated, and I think we lost a little focus as to why we were there. I think we played a very good Convoy Crestview team, played them very well. Had a bad stretch in the third, end up losing, and they won pretty handily there in 14. And then to get back in 15, I think it was a little bit more of a business approach and trip as opposed to kind of a social event, which I think definitely helped us.
Mm-hmm.
And the coaching staff had experience, and we had several players back from the 14 team, which assisted us. So kind of fast forward here to 2022. I've had experience coaching in like you said, the semis and the finals, and there's obviously not a player on the team that played, but as we joked, Bruce, on Friday, we do have a ball boy that was on the bench. That's been pretty good for us in his career. So we'll see. Again, experience does help, but we also know that there's some other things that will come into play.
I'm curious, Josh, from a tactical standpoint. I don't know if the previous time that you were in the state semis, if you had a day between the semis and the finals. You do not have that this time. You're not on the schedule to play. Well, let me see. You're playing Saturday. Am I right?
Yeah, we play Saturday at 2.
I've been saying Friday because I got the girls' schedule in my head. You're playing Saturday and coming back. Hopefully, we see you back Sunday to play for the state title. So you don't have that day in between. And, you could get rich. Let's say if you're fortunate enough to win, you have a great challenge in Antwerp. And I'm not at all suggesting that you're going to play in the finals. But you have to be ready for every contingency. If you get there, you're going to get Richmond Heights or you're going to get Berlin Highland. How do you prep for those two, not knowing which it would be, and at best having, I don't know, an overnight to get ready?
That's a great point, Bruce. And I've kind of been racking my brain, about that exact scenario. And like you said, obviously we've got a huge obstacle in front of us on Saturday afternoon. So we try to talk about, be concerned with what's in front of you, and not worry about what's down the line. But as you mentioned, you've also got to have a plan. And in the last 2 appearances, we did play on Thursday and then had a day of preparation, and the championship was on Saturday. So this is a little bit of a different animal for us. In a perfect world, we would have some type of walkthrough, I believe, on Friday, on Saturday evening, and then again on Sunday morning, and then get an opportunity. So it's not ideal. And to be honest with you, in that situation, you kind of just got to be really good at what you do, and really focused on yourself. And certainly there's some nuggets that you can pull in defensively and things of that nature to try to stop what other teams are going to try to do. But you kind of just have to rely on what you've been doing the last, 3 or 4 months, in my opinion.
So you mentioned defensively, and you and I have chatted a lot here recently about your defense. You felt like that was really crucial, and I agree, holding Botkins without a field goal in the first quarter on Friday night. Some of that was their shooting, but you didn't give them any open looks. And as I said to you that night, I thought you didn't give them any looks in rhythm. They got shots, but they didn't get shots that I think are comfortable shots. And I wonder if, since you had everybody back this year, is that the difference that you see in your team? You could score the ball last year. Lane was your leader last year. He's still your leader this year. But do you think the change in your team from last year to this year is that you've become a much better defensive team, or is there some other change you notice?
No, I would agree. I think defensively we've been pretty good all year long, and as we talked, Bruce, that's kind of been our calling card. I think we've become more confident on that end. I think we've become stronger physically and stronger mentally, and understanding that to win these tough games, you've got to be really, really good on the defensive side of the ball, and you've got a defensive rebound, and you've got to be really, really good with regard to scouting report and understanding what kids can and can't do, and taking those things away. And I think our kids have understood, being with me over the last 18 months, how to follow scouting reports, how to, work hard every day in practice, and understand that, you practice for a purpose, and as a result, and then hopefully you get the results that you want on game night. But our kids, like I said, I think they've really bought in and understood that defensive integrity is really important in winning games, because your offense sometimes is going to come and go. We try to be efficient with what we do, but defense travels, and with our length and our athleticism, it's been good to us.
All right, I see Sonny has moved from the upstairs office to the kitchen, hoping the Wi-Fi signal will be better. You want to try it again, Mr. Folks?
How about this for a fresh background?
How about that?
I thought he was just avoiding me here for a minute. I don't know what was going on.
We had to get a little closer to the toaster. One of the things that I wanted to, and I think you probably just covered that with Bruce, was about perspective from the 2015 and things that can go wrong in a state championship finals like that you learn from and you share and you draw from this weekend when you have that. And I don't know if you specifically covered that or not, but I remember you telling me, I'm going to learn from this experience in 2015. And hopefully, this helps us again when we get to this point.
Yeah, without question. You learn a lot. Nothing can replace experience, in my opinion, and that goes from staff to players to community. To be honest with you, and we were elated to be there. It was an unbelievable opportunity for our kids, and I think we played really really hard. We just had a bad stretch in the third quarter where we turned it over, and it turned out to be Convoy Crestview was very very good, Sonny, and so then I think the next time we got there, we weren't just happy to be there. It was more of a like I told Bruce, it was more of a business trip for our kids and our staff and our community. And fortunately, we were able to kind of finish the mission there. And again, we don't have a lot of guys, or we don't have any guys that played at that time. We do have some staff members that are still with me, but we'll. It's different, as Bruce mentioned, playing back to back. That's a different approach. I played Thursday, Saturday. Now we'll be playing Saturday, Sunday. Different, not staying all night in Columbus. Our kids are going to get an opportunity to sleep in their own beds. We're going to try to give them a great final 4-week experience, minus sleeping in, staying all night in a hotel, which I'm sure is a little disappointing for some of our kids. But I think at the end of the day, that might be beneficial for us.
I wanted to ask you specifically that if you were going to stay at home, sleep in your own bed, and what kind of advantage, or is there an advantage for being in routine? Because, I mentioned sometimes in a column that it's tough to win or play on the road. Some coaches says that have nothing to do with winning or playing well, whether you're on the road. I don't particularly believe that. But how much does it really mean for kids to be able to be in their own environment, eating their own food and sleeping in their own bed?
Well, I'm going to speak from a personal experience as a player. It's a difficult grind, to sleep somewhere and get up, eat different food, be on a different, time scale, time pattern. So, only time will tell on how beneficial it is here, in the next, 4 or 5 days. But personally, I think it is a nice advantage for our kids to get to sleep in their own bed. Again, we're going to do a nice final 4-week experience for our kids. But I don't think it's all bad. And I'll take it one step further. We have a tremendous following at Tri-Village, and most likely they would all follow to Columbus, but I think we might pick up a few more in Patriot Nation by being right here at UD Arena, which, you know as well as I do helps.
Josh, you mentioned UD Arena. One thing on the scheduling, I think it broke well for you to stay at home because you don't play the 10:45 game either day. You play the 2 o'clock semifinal, and then if you get to the final, you play the 5 o'clock final. So you have time to get back home and get back to UD Arena. And then the other thing is the other 3 teams that are coming in D4, this will be their first look at UD Arena, and your kids have played in there for your district final. I'm not saying that makes a difference, but I would think as a coach, you like the fact that your guys have been in that locker room, been on that court, seen that background, and it won't be eyes wide open when they step out there on Saturday.
I would agree, Bruce. As a coach in this situation, you take every advantage that you can possibly get. And, whether that is or not, I don't know. But I can tell you our kids were extremely excited the first time they stepped on that floor. It's a beautiful venue. University of Dayton does a tremendous job. It's a phenomenal week of basketball here in Dayton, as you know, and it's a beautiful facility. And we're excited to be back there and get our opportunity here. And like you said, hopefully it maybe will relax our kids a little bit in this environment that we've already been in.
Sonny must be frozen or have nothing to say. So I will follow up with one more, and that is Lane gives you a tremendous weapon. And I thought you phrased it so well Friday night that not everybody in any division has a 6'6", 6'5" guard who can just rise up and shoot the ball no matter how closely he is guarded. But you also need actual guards to not put the pressure of handling the ball on lane all the time. People tend to focus on big kids in high school. Finkbein and Scantlin are right there in that 6'5", 6'6" category too. But you got two big three-pointers, one from each of your other guards, Wilson Suggs and Dalton DeLong, on Friday night. And I just wonder if you could talk about their contributions to your team this year. And my sense of watching you a couple times is that both those guys are a lot more confident in what they do this year than they were a year ago.
Yep, you're correct. Obviously, Lane is very special, and in these games, you've got to have a player who's capable of making plays when things break down, and he can get shots off, he can get to the rim, he can elevate, he can offensive rebound. He can do his thing, but it's also about having pieces to your puzzle, and Wilson and Dalton are certainly what I would call glue guys, sometimes unsung heroes. And in these games, your glue guys, your unsung heroes, your role players have to make some plays. And fortunately for us, they've made a lot of plays throughout the season, and none bigger than Wilson's corner three, in my opinion. Had confidence to step up and make a big shot. And then I think Dalton's three at the beginning of the game was huge to get us off on a positive note and get some confidence. And I think that's what makes our team pretty good at times, Bruce, is we've got several guys who are capable of making some offensive plays when they get their opportunity in the right position. So, and I think Josh Scanlon's no different. We kind of call him the Swiss Army knife. He can do a lot of things for us. And of course, Justin Finkbein is just a workhorse on both ends of the court for us as well. And so I think that's what kind of makes us pretty good. And being elite in your role, we talk about that all the time. And our guys, winning matters. Winning is the most important thing to our kids on the floor and in our program. And I think you can kind of see that with the way in which they defend and the way in which they share the basketball and the way in which they celebrated the win. Lane led us with 20, and I think Justin had 10, and a lot of other guys had single digits. But the excitement and enthusiasm for what lies ahead and cheering on one another and being great teammates is extremely important. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're 25-3 and playing on Saturday.
Well, Sonny, do you have anything for Josh before we turn him loose to get back to looking at game film?
Well, the one thing we wrote about over the weekend, and this is a subject that we've brought up for years, is officiating in a tournament. And there were a number of coaches and people who remarked over the weekend about how rough it was, particularly for girls basketball. Not that I don't know that necessarily needs to make a difference, but it's something you and I have talked about before at tournament time, and whether the game has gotten too rough. I know Jerry Close said from Waterford the other day, it's not a pretty game to watch anymore. It is too rough. It's not enough about skill. I know you and Bruce have spoken about this recently, but if you don't mind sharing some perspective on the fact of what do we need to do to, I don't know if clean up is the right term in relative to high school basketball, but certainly bring some of the skill to it and eliminate some of the blocking and tackling.
Yeah, certainly. $1 million question here, Sonny. Well, here's a couple of things. One, I think you have to be really good at adjusting to how officials are going to call games, and I think coaching staff and players, the more that they understand how to adjust during the contest, I think the better that you are. And I think depending on who you play and where you play, sometimes depends on how the officials are gonna call the game. And three, at Tri-Village, we've tried to embrace the physicality and of the game, so we understand. Just to be honest with you, so we can compete, and because I think that is the way in which things are heading. Strength matters, physicality matters at this point now. if it was up to me, I would eliminate a little bit of that. I struggle sometimes when stronger, bigger athletes can physically take basketball players out of the game with hands and things of that nature. And I'm a skilled guy and I value skill. That's something that I would certainly wouldn't mind seeing. Again, you talked a little bit about our defense, Bruce, and some of our defensive prowess depends on physicality and toughness and hands and some of those things at times. But again, understanding how to adjust. And I think I've done a better job with that, to be honest with you, the older I've gotten, with in game and understanding how officials are going to call the game. And it's a big part of our game, in my opinion, how they're going to call the game and how it's going to be perceived. Because, if it's tight, that changes things. If it's a very, very physical, sometimes that changes things. So we have to be prepared to play, I think, on a couple different ways.
Well, I think you're right, Josh, and I think there is really no choice to not do it. It's such a disadvantage not to play the way you're allowed to play that you're surrendering an advantage to the opponent if you don't match the physicality. You can have all the integrity issues with it or whatever. You can be a basketball purist or whatever and say we're not going to do that. Fine, you'll have your integrity at the end of the game. You'll probably lose the game because it is an advantage to play physical. And if the officials are going to allow it for one team, you'd be silly not to embrace it as the other team. And so we hope that you guys play well. I hope you have a great week. I hope you enjoy it to the max with your community. We will be there. We'll be covering every inch of it. And it's been a joy to cover you and your team, not just this year, but the last 2 years. You've really been great to us, and we appreciate that very, very much.
Thanks so much, Bruce. We certainly enjoy you and seeing Sonny and on the sidelines, and looking forward to talking to you on Saturday. And thanks for all you do for high school athletics and certainly Tri-Village Patriots.
You bet. And thank you so much, Josh. We'll see you at UD Arena.
Thank you.
Josh Sagester, head coach at Tri-Village, and Sonny Folks is back. I don't know how long you're going to stay this time, but you are back. And Josh had, he was very kind to join us, but we got to let him go so he can scout and do whatever else he needs to do to get ready for that Saturday semifinal against Antwerp. 28-1. You've seen him play. What do you think of Antwerp?
Well, they're certainly a team that impressed me by their discipline and how well they're prepared, how well they execute, a plan both offensively and defensively. One of the things that you bring away from watching them is they have played against some good teams. Mm-hmm. They have played against good competition. So they're not going to be shocked when you get to UD Arena on this weekend and suddenly have to play one of the best teams in the Southwest like Tri-Village. Jagger Landers is a 6'6", 6'7" kid that can run the floor. He honestly plays like a guard or a small forward. He's mobile. Again, I was just impressed by the fact that Marion Local took a lot of his offensive game away from him. He only scored 8 points in that semifinal or that final game that they played, the regional final. On the other hand, what he did, he continued to contribute defensively, rebounding, things like that. He added to the game even though he wasn't scoring. He distributed the ball. He found open teammates. He made it easier and facilitated other people to score. That's a special player, particularly in a tournament situation where you're one and done and you can get frustrated with the fact I'm not getting my points. I'm not helping here. This is not going well for me, i.e. it's not going well for my team. He doesn't play that way. And then he's got a cast around him of kids that have obviously played together for a long time. So it's an impressive team. They're well coached, and they're going to be very well prepared to come down here and compete.
The little that I've been able to watch them on television highlights, YouTube, and highlights posted on Twitter, they look a lot like Tri-Village. I think Tri-Village might be a little quicker, and I don't think they have a Lane Sarver player, but I don't think anybody in Division IV has a Lane Sarver type player, unless it's Botkins and Carter Plyman and Jacob Plyman. But that's going to be a game, I think, where they have a lot of similarities and a lot of big athletic kids. And I hope that the officials let them play basketball. I hope it's not rugby because Tri-Village will adjust to that. I've seen them play really physical, and I've seen them play, in a game where the officials were calling a little bit tighter. The real contrast in styles is going to be in the other semifinal, where we have Berlin Highland 23-4 and Richmond Heights 23-4. And Richmond Heights is going to be extremely physical, extremely big, and Highland's going to be extremely well drilled and fundamental. And that one is going to be, I would imagine Highland's going to shoot a lot of threes, and Richmond Heights going to have a lot of power inside. They're a very big team. And so that'll be an interesting semifinal on Saturday at 10:45. The Friday schedule, as were the girls' games ordered, Division III will be first. Columbus Afrocentric 23-5 against Ottawa Glandorf 24-2. And then back again for another bite of the apple, the defending state champion Cleveland Heights Lutheran East. They mauled, and I choose that word purposefully, they mauled Worthington Christian last year. That was a game the officials did a horrible job of allowing the kids to play basketball. In a close game, Lutheran East hung on, and they will get everything they want from Cincinnati Taft on Friday at 2 p.m. Both those teams have lost more games than you would anticipate a semifinalist to lose. Lutheran East is 16-9, Cincinnati Taft is 17-8, and that is because both those teams have played a ton of Division I teams this year, and they both have great players. Lutheran East and Cincinnati Taft, 2 p.m. on Friday will be a great, great knockdown, drag-out in more ways than one semifinal. And then on Friday night, Alter, trying to win a boys' title to go with the girls' title they won, taking on top-ranked Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. They have restocked, reloaded, re-recruited. And Waverly will take on Gates Mills Gilmore Academy, the team that ousted St. Mary's, I believe. Am I right on that? Or no, that's not right. St. Mary's not a Division II team. Gates Mills Gilmore Academy plays Waverly in the Friday night semifinal.
I talked to people down Waverly Way earlier today, down in Scioto County and in Ross County and in the Chillicothe area, and they're very excited. First time since 1970 since they've been to the state tournament, 52 years. So they're very excited, and they like their basketball team. I've talked to a couple of coaches that have played against them, and I know they're going to be an underdog, but still. For the fact that, once you get into a situation like that and you have a few shots go down and you realize those guys wear shorts and sneakers just like you do, anything is possible. So they're very excited about Waverly being there again. And like Wheelersburg was a few years ago, and Ironton and some of those teams from Southeast Ohio, it's a big, big deal. I don't want to leave out Nate Speed and Proctorville Fairland, who was there 4 years ago, and we saw them play. So it's a big, big deal, and that always adds. They'll bring a great crowd. They'll bring a lot of people, first time in 52 years, and that adds to certainly the excitement and the atmosphere of the arena.
And then our Division I semifinals after the Saturday morning and afternoon D4 semis, which again is Richmond Heights against Highland at 10:45, Tri-Village against Antwerp Saturday at 2. Our 5:15 semifinal, strap it on for this one, boy. Pickerington Central against Lakewood St. Ed, and then the nightcap defending state champion Centerville against Cleveland St. Ignatius. St. Ignatius is 17-11, and they've had a great tournament run. I am scratching my head because I worked in Cleveland for a long, long time. And unless they picked up one of these campuses and physically moved it, Ed's and Ignatius are 5 miles apart. 5 miles apart. Now, how are they both in different regionals to make it to the D1 state tournament? Do you have an explanation for me?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, being the cynic that I am, is how can you gerrymander that thing so it sells the most tickets? Tournament tickets, and you benefit financially from it. So I don't know that that's the case, but it certainly smells that way sometimes when you have a situation of schools 5 miles apart.
Oh, he was making a point, and the internet gremlins got him. So, look, Minster and Fort Loramie were in different regions during the COVID year. Both made it to the girls' state tournament. And I get it. The line has to be drawn somewhere. But it's been like about what? I don't know, 5 minutes, 6 minutes since St. Ed's and St. Ignatius won a state championship in something. Ed's in football. Ignatius almost always is in the hockey. They didn't win the hockey. I don't know. But it just strikes me as odd that two longtime powerhouse, and they're both powerhouses in wrestling, and they've both, I think, been there before in basketball. It strikes me as odd, and I have this, I have my tentacles out on the public versus private thing. I disagree with Sonny on this. If he comes back, there he is. He'll pop back in and tell me I'm crazy. Here we go with the public versus private thing, because I always count up how many publics and how many privates there are. I think it looks bad when two parochial schools 5 miles apart are in separate regions and they both make it to state, because I think by and large people are suspicious of parochial schools having different rules than public schools when it comes to getting to the state tournament. And when Ed's and Ignatius, two teams with a trophy case and a half full of state championship trophies, both make it to the state, I just think that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows around Ohio. Am I wrong?
I don't know if it raises eyebrows or not. I just think it raises the ticket sales. Both of them have great fan bases, and they're going to turn out in mass, and they're going to buy a lot of tickets. They're going to create a lot of atmosphere. And I think at some point the OHSAA has got to be mindful. The fact is, it really a tournament if nobody comes. So you've got to put butts in the seats. You've got to have make it an experience that kids want to be motivated to get to and be there, and something that continues the great tradition of high school basketball in the state tournament. So if you don't have that, then the question, like the tree that falls in the forest, does it really fall if nobody hears it or sees it? So I think that. And as far as the public versus private, I've never agreed with you from the standpoint of being a competitor. I don't care what it looks like, public versus private, and who has the most trophies. As an old athlete, I wanted to play against the best. I didn't care if they were Presbyterian, Catholic, Lutheran, Baptist, United Methodist, or Hindu. I wanted, if I was going to beat somebody and win, I wanted to play against the best competition.
I don't disagree with that aspect, but I just want to make sure my school is playing by the same rules as the other school in terms of acquiring the players that play there.
Well, there comes a point where you can only do so much to make the playing field level and to make it 5 for them and 5 for them. And I just don't know that you can do that anymore. We're already at 7 divisions in football, 4 divisions in basketball, trying to give something, a carrot on a stick to every conceivable demographic that's out there, regardless of the size, when it comes to the size of the community and size of the school, and make it fair for everybody and give everybody the same championship opportunity. There's going to come a point where there's just no opportunities left. You're going to have to play somebody better, somebody bigger, somebody different from you, or not play at all.
All right, before we jet on out of here, I want to share Debbie's Facebook post with you. She says, poor Sonny, know all about that internet. And our friend and outstanding photographer, man, did he nail the shots of the Gahanna Lincoln Pickerington Central regional final. He was all over it. Brian Bayless. Brian says it's like Sonny has a bucket brigade handling his MBPS data. I don't even know what MBPS data is, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with internet. So maybe Brian can cook up your internet there, boost it up. Maybe if you put on a tinfoil hat next time, you'd get better reception.
Maybe if I just get closer to the toaster.
Maybe. All right. You ran a Reader Speaks column today. That was a very nice column. A lot of good response. We're picking up a lot of new readers in Central Ohio. We like that. We appreciate our loyal readers from Western Ohio. And we will cover the games at the state tournament just like we did the girls. Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to share with the folks before we let them have the rest of their Monday evening back?
Well, I will tell you this. We posted some of the letters that came in or emails that came in and Facebook messages that we got through last night. Today, we've had several more, a lot of response from people who disagree that seemed like 2/3 to 1/3 that the tournament should be in Dayton. They want it in Columbus because it's centrally located and they want the tradition. One guy even said, "Hey, I enjoy going to the Holiday Inn between sessions." Mister, that Holiday Inn's been gone for 15 years. I don't know when the last time you went to the state tournament.
He'd have to break into
somebody's it's not there.
You'd have to break into somebody's apartment to get a drink at the Holiday Inn. That's an apartment building now.
That's exactly right. Somebody else said, well, they could have it. If Ohio State doesn't want it, they could have it Nationwide Arena. I can't imagine what it would cost for the OHSAA to have that tournament at Nationwide Arena. You'd be paying $50 for a ticket then and not $12. So that's out the window. Somebody else said there's got to be a better place, closer place, more convenient place than Dayton in Southwest Ohio. Well, you're either going to have to go to Toledo or Cleveland or Columbus or Dayton or Cincinnati, someplace that has a facility big enough to sell enough tickets. If you can, to make it profitable, it's just business in that sense. And, parking and everything else that goes, the amenities that goes with hosting an event of that size. And there were also some people who said, hey, UD is a beautiful place. It's convenient. The parking, everything off the interstate is easier to get to than what the shot is. Leave it where it is. So we got a lot of good response, and I appreciate people who wrote in about that. There were also people who wrote in. I know I asked Josh, and I didn't hear everything he said about officiating, but there are people out there who are concerned about the direction of basketball. I'm concerned if anybody is listening to them. That they want to see more skill in basketball and less rough play. I don't know how that gets fixed. Jerry Waterford from Waterford said to me Jerry Close from Waterford the other day said, I don't know how it gets fixed, but it starts with fans. If fans don't want it and parents don't want it that way, then that's the first source that the National Federation and the OHSAA or the Indiana High School Association or Michigan or Kentucky, whoever it is, because the National Federation serves them all. But it starts with fans and parents wanting the game cleaned up. And then another coach told me, well, we've all got to be of one accord too. It's got to come from coaches because guys that have big players and physical players are going to take advantage of a rougher type of play.
You still with me? It appears that Sonny is frozen in time. So let me relate a short anecdote about what happened with me at the state tournament. I spoke with the supervisor of officials prior to the semifinal game in girls between Worthington Christian, the state championship game between Worthington Christian and Purcell Marion. And we had a very cordial interview, and we'll reprint that interview on PressProsMagazine.com later this week. And I asked him if palming the ball, carrying the ball, was still a violation in high school basketball. And he assured me that it was. And I shared with him that I've covered probably 25 games this year, and I've watched probably 3 times that many games college on TV, and I have yet to see it called once. Now, that's a pretty strange occurrence that I've not seen palming the basketball called once all year. And so I said to him, I will guarantee you it won't be called in this game we're going to watch. And you watch the game with me and tell me after the game how many times it could have been called. Now, let me be clear. The Purcell Marion kids are very, very talented, extremely talented, wondrously talented. And I don't blame them for palming the ball as often as they do, because why wouldn't you if you're allowed to do it? The officials do indeed allow them to do it, and so they do it, and they do it a lot. And so I caught up with Denny Morris after the game, and I said, Denny, did you count how many times you thought palming the ball should be called? And he said, I looked for it, and there was maybe one. I can't even say it with a straight face. There was maybe one violation, but I wouldn't have noticed it if you hadn't said anything to me before the game. So if the supervisor of officials doesn't know what palming the ball is, I don't think we have a reasonable expectation of it being called. And I would say,
Bruce,
I would say his other explanation for why the game has gotten physical is that they have 5,000 officials in the state of Ohio, He is a part-time employee of the OHSAA, and basically it's not something that he feels like he has the reach and influence to be able to accomplish to get all 5,000 officials on the same page.
No, and I agree with that. That makes sense. As far as palming the ball or carrying the basketball, that's incidental to a lot of people sitting in the stands because they miss traveling calls.
It gives the dribbler a gigantic advantage.
Well, listen to this now. Listen to this. Maybe there is an advantage, but there's also an advantage with the Euro step. And that's nothing more than traveling. And now it is sanctioned in. It's chic to say, oh, the Euro step, because LeBron did it. But what people don't understand are the head-on collisions where nothing gets called, and they raise their hands and say, get up and play on. It's just a good, strong, physical basketball play. That's baloney. It's a head-on collision. It's a broken nose or a cracked cheekbone or something like it. It's hard. Those kids hit the floor hard, and people don't understand that. They understand that basketball is a skill game. Can you shoot the ball? And when you go in to the lane to shoot a layup and somebody hits you with their chest, even though they get all ball up top with their hand, it's still a foul. But people or officials now are asked to evaluate contact rather than call it. And the kids don't understand how to play because I go back to that Tri-Village regional final game with Cincinnati Country Day. It was called tight in the first half. It wasn't called at all in the second half.
And I don't know girls.
I'm talking about the girls game. I don't know that cost Tri-Village the game. I don't know. They didn't shoot as well as they normally do. But certainly people in the stands don't understand. The kids don't understand what's going on. And it's like Jerry said the other day, or another coach who said to me that I will not name by name because he said it's ugly. It's a wonderful game that has grown ugly. And he said the genesis of it is AAU basketball because they want a fast, physical, up and down game. They got to get out of there in an hour and 10 minutes or something. And so they don't make a lot of calls. And then that carries over to the high school game. And somebody told me over the weekend it's even in the junior high games now where it's more physical than it should be because kids can't learn solid mechanics and fundamentals. So I don't know where this goes. I started to say before I got bumped off a minute ago that coaches, obviously, who have the players to play this way, don't want to see it change because it gives them the advantage. Like, as you say, carrying the basketball. But other coaches who don't have that kind of muscle say, I wish we could clean it up and let skill prevail.
Yeah. No, they've pretty much allowed foot speed and quickness to be taken out of the game, particularly defensive foot speed, because now you can hold and clutch and grab and bump and compensate for a lack of foot speed or a lack of fundamentals where you've practiced foot speed and sliding and keeping your body in front of defenders. So we'll see how it plays out on the boys' side. My guess is when you look at some of those athletes on the D1 ledger, Sonny Styles from Pickerington Central, and some of those other kids from Ignatius and Eds, I mean, we could have a Royal Rumble in D1 because there's some big, big, big young men out there, and it will be interesting to watch and see how much is let go and how much is called.
And Bruce, I'm going to make a prediction to you relative to your carrying the ball complaint. You're going to see a lot of hand checking this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see a whole ton of hand checking. And 5 years ago, that was a big point of emphasis. We're going to clean up hand checking and cut this business of steering the ball handler off course toward the rim or off course toward making a play or facilitating the ball to somebody else. We're going to clean that part up. For a month, they did. And after that, game on.
Yeah, you won't see palming the ball, but I guarantee you'll see at least 2 or 3 illegal screens that have nothing to do with anything 40 feet from the basket called in every game.
Maybe even a lane violation.
Yeah, maybe. With that, we'll thank all of you for joining us. Follow us on Instagram at PressProsMagazine. Our Twitter is at PressProsMag. Thank you for reading the site. Thank you for our sponsors. Remember, we give away a $50 Layman's gift card every month. Layman's is our exclusive sponsor of the Lowdown, which runs on the Press Pros Magazine homepage. Make sure you're checking it out every day. We'll repost today's show on the Lowdown tomorrow. So you'll be able to watch the replay and hear Josh Sagester, the head coach at Tri-Village, talk about their semifinal Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock against Antwerp. We appreciate Coach joining us, all of you fans, particularly from New Madison and the other communities that are following the Patriots to the state tournament, for watching us, our loyal viewers like Debbie, who always watches from Albany, Georgia. So thank you, guys. We appreciate it, and we love what we do because you guys love what we do too, and we appreciate your kind words on the Reader Speaks. So with that, Mr.
Well,
Cole,
and we also apologize for the technical hiccups tonight because Wi-Fi and bandwidth and all those kind of things are something that Bruce and I are we're just carpenters. It's just a hammer handle to us. So right. If you were inconvenienced trying to listen and keep up with things tonight, we will strive to do better. Like the guy on Pardon the Interruption says, Kornheiser says every day, we'll try to do better next time.
Try to do better tomorrow. Absolutely. With that, thanks everybody, and we'll see you again very, very soon.